Welcome to the DIY Writer Show with the mild-mannered, slightly heroic host, Jeff Bacon.
This is Jeff with the DIY Writer Podcast, and today is a first for the show. We have a historical Western and contemporary romance writer who also does cozy mysteries. I'd like to introduce you to the wonderful, and also she's a podcaster, Kristine Raymond. Kristine,
Hey,
how
Jeff.
you doing today?
Hey, Jeff, I'm good. How are you?
Oh, you know what? It is just a simple Tuesday in Wisconsin.
A little bit chilly up there, maybe?
It's a little bit chilly up there. We don't have the wonderful weather that you do in Kentucky. So
It's a little chilly for Kentucky this morning. It's in the 40s, so that's a
Oh,
little on
really?
the cool side. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that is a little on the cool side for Kentucky.
Yeah.
How you dealing with that? Is it okay? You gonna be all right?
Oh, yeah. I'm fine. I prefer it a little colder. I'd rather have cold than hot. So, yeah, I'm good with it. Bring it on. Now, cold, of course, depends on your definition. I can handle 40s. I can handle anything to the freezing mark.
Yeah,
Once it gets below that, then it gets too cold.
that's a problem.
Yeah.
I've been kind of laughing because my parents moved down to North Carolina, and they're kind of in that area where you can drive to North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia within a half an hour. You know, I mean that area down there where it's almost a perfect place to live. And I'll be like, oh, it's like 32 degrees or 33 degrees here, and they're like, yeah, it's getting a little chilly here. I think it was 69. Yeah, it's 69 right now. It's like, oh yeah, it'll be that way all day. Yeah, shut up. Yeah.
That's why people live in the South, so that we can make our northern friends jealous of the
Is that what
weather.
it is?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, we get to play in the snow, so there.
Oh, hey, go for it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a special time for all of us Northerners, but we are here for a purpose, and the first purpose would be finagled.
Finagle.
It's a cozy mystery.
It is my first cozy mystery. It's the first in the series, the Finn's Finds mystery series, and it started out as a thriller. That's what I thought I was going to write. I had written some form of romance for several years and decided I wanted to take a break. I wanted to just completely try something different. And I thought, I'm going to write a thriller. And I sat down and began writing, and the character of Finn took hold, and she is so quirky and funny. It's not thriller material. And so Finagle was born. It just developed kind of on its own. And about a couple of chapters in, I'm like, this is a cozy mystery. This isn't a thriller.
So what is a cozy mystery? What's the definition of that?
Basically, it is a mystery with where the crime happens off the page. In other words, you can say that someone was murdered, you can say how they were murdered, but you don't get into the blood and guts and gore of it.
Okay.
And it's usually the main character is usually someone who isn't a professional detective. They kind of stumble into the whole let's figure out who done it on their own. And for some reason, there seems to be a lot of baking in a lot of cozy mysteries. It's kind of like craft oriented for a lot of them. So there's a knitting theme or a baking theme or things like that. Now, mine does not have baking or knitting, but it does have food, because Finn is of Polish heritage, and her grandmother makes all of these Polish meals, all of these Polish dishes.
Okay.
So I am half Polish, so I'm pulling from my own experience. So there's a lot of talk of pierogis and grumpkis and kielbasa and things like
that. Okay. Just stop right there. If you're going to bring out, what are those jelly filled donuts that are right around spring? It starts with a P.
I know. And it just escaped me. I know what you mean, but I can't think of the word now. But
Like
I know exactly what you mean.
Oh yeah, they're delicious and horrible for you, and they're delicious anyway.
Well, the follow-up book that I'm working on now, Finicky Eaters, is about crust chicky. So if you've ever had crust chicky, that is.
I'm a big fan of Polish cuisine. I mean, it just kind of, I don't know. It's one of those things where it's almost like, it's comfort food.
Yeah.
I mean, it really is. It is, for an American,
it's hearty.
It's hearty, but it's comfort food. It's not, I suppose you could say it's fancy, but it's not really. It's just kind of good home, like it's a jelly donut. It's a, it's a pastry. It's a stew type thing. It's a,
right.
it's a hearty, like
it's a mashed potato pancake almost, the pierogies, mashed potatoes wrapped in dough. What isn't
right
good about that?
And it's
and then
fried
in butter.
Yeah,
fried in butter.
It's just like, how much better could it get?
Exactly.
Well, I'm also part Norwegian, so I'm not Polish, but I am part Norwegian, and I think we got the short end of the stick as far as cuisine goes, because you either have lesfa or you have lutefisk, and none of it's good. It all sucks, so we have to look at things from other countries where they actually had taste buds, and they didn't have to live off of whatever the heck they could find on the land, which again, Vikings were more of the we'll just eat it because it's moving. It's like, it doesn't necessarily need to be eaten. You could find something else. And who came up with lutefisk? I mean, oh my God, it's just horrible. It stinks. And it's like, okay, well, it must taste really good because everybody's eating it. No, it tastes like shit. It's just horrible. God. But anyway, back to Finn. Funny. So how does Finn fit into this I mean, how does she get into the mystery? I mean, develop this character for me a little bit.
Okay. Well, she owns an antique shop in the fictional town of Port New, which is this little seaside town.
Okay.
And lots of tourists come into her shop, and she not only sells antiques, but she'll buy it. If somebody brings in something that's, catches her eye, she may purchase it. So at the opening of the story, a man walks into her store, someone she does not know, and offers to sell her this mahogany writing box, which she immediately recognizes as a priceless antique, drooling over this box. And the price he asks for it is kind of little on the low side. So that's her first indication that something's maybe not quite right, but it's just too good a deal to pass up.
Okay. And
she buys the box, and as she's inspecting it, this piece of paper falls out with a coded message on it. And that's what kind of gets her like, okay, I'm going to figure this out.
Mm-hmm.
There is someone else who knows about the box and the message, and he comes into the picture, and that's where the mystery really gets going. And I really don't want to say a whole lot more because I don't want to give it away. But as she's dealing with this, figuring out what this mystery is, her high school crush, whom she hadn't seen in 15 years, suddenly shows up at her shop and asks her out on a date. So she has that to deal with. And her mother's thrilled because her mother wants grandchildren and wants to marry her off. Oh. So it's just this really fun story. And Finn is just, as I said, she's so quirky, and she has a squirrel personality. So she'll be talking to you and then she'll immediately be off on another tangent, squirrel, talk about something else. And then she'll be back to you. And she just kind of goes in every direction, and her family and friends know this about her, and they just kind of, big sigh when they're dealing with her. But she's extremely loyal and determined, and it was such a fun story to write.
I don't know where that phrase came from, the squirrel, but
the movie Up.
Up. Okay. That's what I was going to say, but I was like, I'm pretty sure it came from the dog in Up.
Yes, it did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was hilarious, but yeah.
But honestly, if you think about it, that's what dogs do. they'll be just like
that's what people
going along
do.
and all this. Well, yeah.
I mean,
at this moment, it's like squirrel.
how many times? Even in meetings, all of a sudden somebody's trying to make a really good point and all that. Oh, look, bagels.
Exactly.
No,
exactly.
keep going. What were you gonna say? And then they forget, and it's like, okay, wait. You're being paid here for something. Anyway, so this is your first cozy mystery.
Yes.
Predominantly, you did historical Western and contemporary romance.
I started out writing historical Western. My first book, Here to Stay, was published 7 years ago last week.
Okay.
November 6th was the 7-year anniversary. Yeah.
Okay.
And I got into writing the same way I pretty much get into anything that I do. I woke up one day and decided I was going to write a book. Actually, there's a little more to that. A girl I worked with had gotten into self-publishing, and she was telling me about her books and the process. So that kind of got me thinking, I'm going to try to write a book. Why not? I've never done it before. Let's see what'll happen. And I sat down Labor Day weekend 2013 and began writing Here to Stay. Published it in November, published the second book in December, published the third book the following February. The rest of the series took a little bit longer because by then I knew a lot of the mistakes I was making in writing, so I had to kind of take my time a little bit more.
Yeah.
And plus then you get into promoting, and that takes a lot of time, and marketing and making connections and all of that.
Yep.
And about halfway through the Hidden Spring series, which is what it's called, I decided that I needed a break from historical. I enjoyed writing the romance, but I kind of needed a break from historical because the research was starting to get on my nerves a little bit.
Yeah.
I wanted to be able to write a sentence without worrying if Stetson hats had been invented yet, that kind of thing, because I try to be as accurate as I possibly can in these books as far as the time.
Sure.
And I wrote By Dawn's Early Light, which is a contemporary romance. And that was for an anthology, and that was supposed to be a standalone. And one of my readers loved the book so much that she pestered me, asked me over and over and over again if I would write more about that town and those people. And I finally did. So that's how the Celebration trilogy came about. And then in between there, I kind of went back and wrote more Hidden Springs. And I write by whatever story pops into my head. Like, okay, these are the characters that are shouting the loudest. So I'm going to write their story. And that's pretty much how I write.
Pantser or plotter?
Definite pantser. Although with the cozy mystery, I can't say that I necessarily plot, but I do plan out the clues because you can't dump them all at the end or all at the beginning. Right. You kind of have to pepper them in as you go along. So I need to know what, if Finn does this, I need to know that it's leading to something.
Right.
But with my other stories, I go in knowing my main characters, how it's going to begin, how I want it to end, although it rarely ends the way I plan it to. And just a general plot, like what the general conflict is going to be. Right. But from there, I let my characters direct it.
Same way. I really try to be a plotter, and then my pantser takes over, and it's just like, oh, okay. And then I write myself into a corner. It's like, okay, I can either delete or rewrite. And I usually end up rewriting myself out of the corner to put myself in another corner. Yeah. And by the time I get done, it's like, okay, this outline is an entirely different book than what I just wrote, but oh, well.
It's the book that was meant to be written. I sincerely, with all my heart, believe that we write the books, the stories that are meant to be written, even if they're not the way that we intended to write them at the outstart.
I think it's weird when and for me, it's kind of weird because I actually thought there's something wrong with me at one point in time when you'd be writing and all of a sudden the character would take over.
Mhm.
And you're writing and it's like, I'm not really doing the, I mean, it just felt you're so involved in it. All of a sudden you're just typing along and it's like, okay, I'm watching this happen.
Exactly.
And then you're sitting there, it's like, why the hell did you do that? Or whatever. And I thought, well, maybe there's something weird with me. But in talking with other authors, it's like, oh no, that happens. It's like, okay, yeah, your characters can completely take over your persona. And it's like, okay, so it's not a mental thing, it's an author thing. Okay, good. Good. No
Well,
psychologist needed.
Well, I don't know about that, but
Wow. Let's
but
not
no, I
stretch
mean,
that up.
it truly is though. It's. I like to think of it that they're telling me the story and I'm just the transcriptionist. I'm just
Mhm.
writing down what they tell me, and it is kind of almost an out of body, out of mind experience, kind of like when you drive somewhere and you've driven the same way hundreds of times, that you get in the car and then you're suddenly at your destination. You're like, well, how did I get here? Because I don't remember driving.
Mhm.
Yeah, I don't remember the road to get there.
Right.
But writing's kind of the same way, and I like when that happens because that's how I know that the story is really authentic. One of the big tests for that with me was when I wrote Tempted, which is my erotic drama. There was something at the end of that, and I'm not going to give it away. It wasn't planned. As I was typing it, I typed it and I went, wow. And then I seriously considered taking that out of the story because that
Mhm.
wasn't what I intended. It wasn't a part of it at all. And I thought, okay, no, that doesn't belong there. I'm going to take it out. And I slept on it and I woke up the next day and I'm like, you know what? It really needs to be there. It was how my character wanted to be.
Right.
And I left it in, and it surprised a lot of readers. And I still wonder if I did the right thing because it really wasn't where I wanted to go with the story, but I do think the story was what it was. I mean, it was told the way it was supposed to be.
So was it much of a jump for you to go from like a contemporary romance to an erotic thriller or erotic drama?
It was and it wasn't. I'd worked on this story for 4 years,
Okay.
and I knew going into it that it was going to be very different. Now, my Hidden Springs series is R-rated. I mean, it's on the spicier side of romance. Celebration's more like PG-13. Tempted is definitely, it's not X, but it's a little bit above R, like, what, maybe, T. I
T.
mean, it's up there. But it was a different story, and I knew it was going to be a different story, so it wasn't really that difficult to make the transition. I was compelled to write that book. And
Okay.
that truly is a standalone. I mean, that isn't like part of a series or anything like that. It was just
Something
a story I
bouncing
had
around
to
in your
tell.
head. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got a series in my coffers that is just exactly that. It's actually 9 very short books, novelettes that I want to do as a series, just a rapid release series. And my problem is that when I get stuck on one book, I go and work on that one, and it's just it almost like I'll be writing along on my first series. And all of a sudden I'll get this little calling from this other one. It's like, yeah, let's just pop that open and write. And then all of a sudden 3 hours later, it's like, oh, the one I'm supposed to be getting done. Oh no. And I don't know. I'm going through a thing.
I think we're all going through a thing all the time. I mean, one of the most important lessons I think I've learned in my 7 years doing this, which that sounds like a really long time, but in some ways it is, and in some ways it isn't. But it's just to do it how you do it. I mean, everyone will give you advice. You can go anywhere on social media, you can read books, you can read articles. Everyone will tell you how you're supposed to write. And I'm not saying that all of that information is wrong or bad or anything like that. I think that you should learn as much as you can about your craft. And then I really think you should do it your own way.
Mm-hmm.
You should write the way that feels correct for you, what feels natural. And I know sometimes I let the voices in my head, not the character voices, but I read this article by this author and they said not to do this, and that's what I'm doing, so I'm doing it wrong. And those are the voices that I have to shut off and say, okay, that's not how they write. That's not what works for them, but it's okay if I write that way.
Mm-hmm. That's something that I'm not as far along in my career as you are, as far as 7 years versus 3, basically, as far as being published. Maybe been writing for 5, published for 3, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But you can take an unlimited amount of classes, and you can take every blog, every video out there, and people will tell you what you should do. Here's your, 5 acts to your book. Here's your 7 acts to your book. No, you should only have 3 acts to your book. You know what? You should really be writing in first person. No, wait a minute. Third person is the only way to write.
Mm-hmm.
I personally like fifth person, but whatever. But and don't forget your second person voice. And then there's also a third person limited, and they go through all the technical stuff, which is all good to know.
Mm-hmm.
It really is. And then they tell you the rules of how you're supposed to write. And this is typically, one of the things that I'm getting really sick and tired of hearing is this is going to be so jarring for the reader. And one of the things that I like to do, because I kind of write in a thriller fashion, but I write dark fantasy and horror.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so it's kind of my own little thing. And there are times when I just want to jar the hell out of that reader. I really do. I want to shake them up, at some point in time, and just, what the hell did I just read? Or, oh my God. And some people, really dig it. And there's a few people that are elitists that like, oh my God, I can't believe you did. I'm putting the book down. And then they'll write your review and tell you how they had to put the book down. Then they also tell you how it ended, which is okay. I think I won, but whatever. You got me, dude, type thing. But the thing that I've learned probably in the last, I would say, year, is that you really have to take everything that everybody says, whether it's Truby or Dawson or, the best, Stephen King, what he says, with a grain of salt. Mm-hmm. Because you can take what you want from that and make it yours. And then anything else that doesn't work for you, you're just going to gone. They are great authors, no doubt about it. But on the other hand, you can only be a good author if you do what you are meant to do.
Right. Because I love Sandra Brown. I mean, absolutely love her. I love her books, but I am not Sandra Brown. I don't want to write Sandra Brown books. I want to write Kristine Raymond books.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's what I think. If there's anything a new author, any advice I can offer a new author, it's stay true to your own voice. It's okay to not write like the person next to you or the bestseller or Stephen King or whoever, because you're not them. You are you. And they can't tell your story. They can't write your book.
Right.
Only you can.
And author envy is a real thing. You can read a book and say, oh my God, I should be doing that. And you can take that part and implement it in your own way, but do not destroy your voice, because your voice is what makes you special.
Exactly.
Honestly. I mean, but you can certainly take certain techniques or whatever, if you want to throw, I write in first person and I want to throw a third person chapter in. That's fine. You know what? Go ahead and stop me. Somebody else is going to be like, oh my God, you're crossing. Yeah, I did. I crossed that line with a smile on my face, and, I mean, there's all sorts of other things, I love these battles that authors have over what word is right, and especially in dialogue. I mean, my editor, has told me in the past, well, this isn't the right word to use in this context. And it's like, this is an uneducated man who did not go to college, and this is the way he speaks. But also he's 300 years old. So guess what? He can talk however the hell he wants to, you know.
Oh yeah. With dialogue, anything goes as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
There is no misspelling unless you actually misspell the word. But I mean, if you can say wanna instead of want to, or
Right.
you can have them speak however you want, and sometimes they do use the incorrect word, because that's how people speak. We don't all speak properly all the time.
Well,
a lot of us don't speak properly any of the time.
The other thing you can do is, and I've done this a few times and had people criticize me on it, but spell something out phonetically because you want it to sound a certain way in your head.
Mm-hmm.
You know, of what they're saying. So I mean, you know, you're from Kentucky, so I mean, there's a lot of words out there that don't really exist that are said in that state. You know,
Right.
Same. I mean, any rural type of community, there are, you know, like pert. I'm gonna pert that over there. You know,
Yeah.
Well, okay, somebody from you know, California is gonna read that and go, pert. Oh my God, it's supposed to be put. No,
Yeah.
it's pert.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, and you know, I'm from New England originally, and thankfully I dodged the New England accent. But I had teachers
No, you didn't.
in.
No, you didn't.
Oh yes, I did.
No.
Trust me, I do not say "pop the car." And I had teachers. I think it was my third grade teacher who used to put R's on the end of her A's, so it was America, but then it was "pop the car," and that's how that region, a lot of people in that region of the country speak. And if I were putting a Bostonian into one of my books, that might be how I spell what they're saying, because that would be "pop the car." Yeah. And America.
America.
Funny things, the things that stay with you.
Do you get back there and do you find yourself kind of picking up that accent? Or...
I have not been back in decades, and I miss the ocean. But no, I never really had that accent. Thankfully.
Okay.
So I think I have more of a Southern accent sometimes on certain words. I can hear myself, and I can't think of an example right offhand. But every once in a while,
do you?
Every once in a while, I'll say a word and I'll be like, "Whew, that was really Southern."
See, I've
been here almost as long as I lived there, so
I can go down to, you know, I've got this kind of weird Wisconsin whatever I got going on, plus I'm from South Dakota originally, but you know, the Midwestern or whatever. But I can go down to Texas, and if I spend a day in Texas, I can come back with a Southern drawl, and it takes me a week to get rid of it.
Yeah.
Be like, hey y'all, you know, and it's kind of fit right in, you know, it's just fine. And I know guys from Massachusetts who live here in Wisconsin that kind of have, you know, I mean, they talk normal as far as the dialect around here, but they'll go back for a week to go visit their family, and they'll come back and they'll be like, dude, I can't understand you. I can't even, oh, I'm sorry. Or my brother-in-law, he's from New Jersey. And he's got kind of a, you know, he's got that New Jersey accent. Yeah. And when, you know, he comes back and you talk to him, it's like, what did you say? Okay.
I know.
Slow down and enunciate, you know, and he's like, I don't have a freaking accent. You do. I was like, okay, whatever.
I know. Well, I escaped the Jersey accent too, because my parents were both raised in South Jersey.
Yeah.
So I had that, and then we had Rhode Island, and then I moved to Arizona for a while, and then in Kentucky. So kind of zigzag all around.
Zigzag all around. Kentucky's a cool place to live, though.
It is. It is. It's pretty here.
I enjoy driving through it, I guess. I've never actually lived. I think I've stayed there a couple of nights here or there, but I've always enjoyed Kentucky.
It's a really pretty state.
It really is. You know, that whole trek going down south, kind of South Carolina or whatever, you can take, you know, you can go up, or else you can go through Iowa and go straight south and kind of over, but I've taken both ways. And there isn't a bad spot there, but of course, you're driving through Illinois, which is just all kind of flat and ugly. And then you hit anything else with hills and maybe a couple of trees looks beautiful to you after you're done going through the desolation of Illinois. But, and for anybody from Illinois, it's right. It's true. The only beautiful thing in your state's Chicago. Just kidding. Maybe not. I'm sorry. I get on tangents.
Squirrel.
What? I was waiting. See how I set that up and just, here you go. So what's on the docket? What's on the future for Kristine right now? I mean, what you got cooking?
Well, I think you mentioned this in the beginning. I host a podcast. It's called Wordplay with Kristine Raymond. Mm-hmm. And it just celebrated its 2-year anniversary in October. And I chat with other authors about their books. And I absolutely love it. It's so much fun. I love talking with other authors, which is why it was really difficult to make the decision, but I'm putting it on hiatus at the end of this year. Indefinite hiatus, which means it might come back, it might not. I'm not committing one way or the other. But I found that it takes so much time away from my writing, and that is what I really want to get back to. I really love to write. I have so many different story ideas. I mean, I could write for the next 20 years nonstop and not tell all the stories that I have ideas for. And I know that other ideas would pop in the meantime. So I have started Finicky Eaters, the sequel, or the follow-up to Finagled. And I really, really want to get that out. And this year was just not conducive to writing for a whole host of reasons. So, short answer, the podcast is going on hiatus at the end of the year. And then I am picking up my virtual pen, or actually sitting at my keyboard and writing. I want to finish Finicky Eaters. I have a book for an anthology that's coming out in February, or a story. I have a character from a series that I thought I was finished with, and those readers who follow me will probably know what I'm talking about, but I'm not going to say it out loud because I don't want to jinx it. But anyhow, a character is talking to me from that series, so I have a feeling a new book might be in order there. Have 6 other Finn's Finds titles. I mean, it's just endless, but 2021 is going to be my writing year. That's the plan.
Yeah. And that probably, it's probably a good plan. As far as that goes. I can tell you that podcasting is tough. It takes a lot of time, and it takes a lot of energy. It really does. I don't think, it's not just strap on a microphone and see, but what happens, it's, there's some show prep, there's some, there's lots of things to do technically just to get the doggone thing out there and everything else. So, I get what you're saying, but it is it's a hell of a lot of fun.
Oh, so much fun. And I don't regret a single minute that I've put into it. And it's funny because it started kind of the same way my writing did. I woke up one day and looked at my husband and said, I'm going to start a podcast. He was like, okay. I mean, I really love promoting other authors. I love promoting other authors more than I like promoting myself. So I thought, I had tried one of those book pages online where, every day there's a different book kind of thing. And that was okay, but I got kind of tired of that. And I had done something called First Pages, where I read the first few pages of different authors' books, video, and put it on YouTube. So there's, I think, like 26 of those out there somewhere. And that was a lot of fun, but that was really time consuming because I'm sort of a perfectionist when it comes to that. So I was doing like 8, 10, 12, 14 takes because I would stumble over a word and I would start over at the beginning. And this is for like a 10-minute segment. So it's like, okay, that's taking way too long. And so I decided to try podcasting, and I have talked to so many wonderful people. I've become friends with so many great authors who I met through podcasting. The highlight was that I got to chat with Sandra Brown, who is one of my all-time, I don't want to call her an idol, but I mean, I absolutely love her. I've been reading her books since, the 80s, and to be able to chat with her about her newest book at the time, it was just, yeah, I fangirled a little bit. It was just incredible. Another favorite author of mine, PJ Tracy, she's been on the show twice, and actually we just recorded her third episode, so that'll be on in December, and it's just been incredible. And not just talking to the other authors, but the opportunities that have come from that, different people that I've connected with through, I'll have this guest on the show and they know this person, and then it just broadens your horizons. It really does. And I've learned a lot. I've learned different techniques to try, and I've learned things that have absolutely nothing to do with writing, but it's like, oh wow, that's really interesting. I want to do that. I never thought of that, So, but the downside of all of that, which, that's the fun stuff. That's the, I love my job stuff. But the downside is hours of editing that it takes, and the promotion and all of that does take up a lot of time. And unfortunately, it came down to a choice. Do I want to be a podcaster who writes, or do I want to be an author who podcasts? And originally I wanted to be an author who podcasts, and I found that, right now I can't do both. So anyway, but you can still listen to episodes, and it will still be out there. It's not going away. So anyone can listen to any episode, including the Sandra Brown episode, at any time. Just look for it on, wherever you listen to podcasts, Apple, Amazon, Spotify, iHeartRadio, our Source Radio Network. I mean, it's out there. Wordplay with Kristine Raymond. And support all these wonderful authors that have been on my show. Okay.
Well, the thing of it is that there aren't a lot of avenues for authors to get themselves out there. I mean, there really aren't. I mean, you can do the 15-minute blurbs, you can do this, you can do that, you can advertise, you can do the written interviews and everything else. But with a podcast, and as far as what I've seen, as far as doing it the way I do it, and you're kind of looking them eye to eye, and you're sitting here and you're talking to them, having a conversation, you learn a lot.
Right.
And you also find out that everybody's got their own little process on how they do things. And again, I think the author's journey is one of the most interesting things, because, you take a bunch of people who really have a story to tell, but don't really want to have any attention. Then all of a sudden you're an author, you're throwing this book out there so everybody can critique it. And, you're kind of throwing yourself out in the middle of the parking lot bare naked saying, okay, tell me what's wrong. And
they will.
Oh yeah, they will. And you kind of develop into this, this author, personality that, but you still want to throw out more books. You still want to do that. Some of them get crushed on the first book. Some of them just kind of fight back, and they're the authors that typically, prevail in this industry, because they, just keep on hitting it hard. But it is so interesting to me to see people, how they struggle with things, how they do this, how they write, what their process is. Are you a day writer or a night writer? Do you spend all day writing? And, just that whole process, I think, is very interesting. And for somebody who's kind of at the beginning, I hope, depends on how long of a life I have, I guess, but, it's very interesting to talk to people that are a few years ahead of me. It's like, okay, well, I figured this out, and oh shoot, I haven't figured that out. I didn't even think about that. Or,
Right.
I mean, there's just all sorts of different things. Wide versus just being on Amazon, that's a big topic for everybody. Should I do this? Should I do that? Should I spend $500 in advertising my first book? Nope. I think everybody agrees with that. Your first book is not your best book. So it might be, but probably not.
Right.
You know, so don't break the bank, you know, make this something sustainable. Yeah, I mean, there's all sorts of tidbits that are in these interviews that it's just like, holy, you're right. You know, just not the musings of some crazy guy sitting in an office.
Well, and I think one thing that's really important to remember is that you will always find readers. It may not be the readers that you think, it may not be the readers that everyone out there tells you these are the readers for your genre, but you will find readers who like your stuff. You will find readers who hate your stuff.
Oh yeah.
And again, they'll be very upfront about it, why they don't like what you've written and what's wrong with it.
Well, some will. Some just kind of blast you and leave, and they leave you the stupid. You need an editor.
Well, true.
You know,
true.
or I hated this book, and then you see review on book 2. I hated this book too. Okay, well,
like,
hate book 3,
yeah.
please, please. I hope you really, really, really hate book 3.
I know. Oh, or like you said, the people that complain about something halfway in the book, but then tell you how it ends,
right?
Because they finished it. I know.
Yep. I will
but
never
we love
read
all our
book.
readers. I love all my readers.
Oh,
I love all my readers.
Yeah, so do I. You know, there's one or two that it's like, well, you know, okay, that was fairly mean, and I don't care. I actually have a comment from one guy where it was such a stupid comment that I printed up a T-shirt for it because of his comment, and I just wear it like a badge of honor. It's like, okay, dude, but he's also an author that has one book that he sells for like $30 a copy. And he says he's a bestseller. I can't find anything but an ISBN number and he's not even, I don't even think he's on Amazon anymore, but it's just a weird book. And it's like, okay, so you must have liked it and then really hated it that's out there. Okay, whatever. I don't care. But anyway, everybody's got the reasons for loving and hating it. It doesn't matter. It's all either like my art or you don't type thing.
And that's it right there. It's your art. Mine is my art. It's what I create. So I do the best that I can to put out something that I think other people will enjoy, but ultimately it's what I want to put out there.
Mm-hmm.
And so.
And you went blank.
Woohoo! Oh, there it is.
There it is. Hi,
there
Kristine. How you doing today?
Sorry. I told you I'm not very technically savvy with this stuff.
Well, I think you've been doing pretty good at that point. I'm guessing you actually shut your camera off and stuck your tongue out at me or something.
No. I wouldn't do that.
Yes, you would. Come on.
No.
Oh.
I'm a nice person.
That's why you shut the camera off and then did it. It's like, oh, I'm so untechnical. Okay, yeah, sure. So what's it, I have no idea what's it like to be a romance writer. I cannot comprehend. I'm a man, number one.
Hey, there are a lot of male romance. No, maybe not a lot, but there are male romance.
Well, I'm sure there are, and it's not me. So, it's one of those things that I'm like, okay, do you put romance in your book? And one of my books, they said, well, it is kind of a romance because I have, kind of snarky flirting between two characters. It's like, well, that's kind of romantic. It's like, seriously? I'll have to kill that relationship in book 2. I'll just have to kill her.
Well, as with cozy mystery, where there's sort of guidelines about what a cozy mystery is supposed to be, the technical definition of a romance is that it has some sort of conflict, but that your characters get either a happily ever after or happily for now. Mm-hmm. That's basically romance in a nutshell. Okay. So you want these two people, whoever they are, to have to fight and claw and struggle for their happily ever after.
Okay.
That's life,
and I get that.
Yeah.
So, a very I guess the question I have for you, being, that I have a romance writer in front of me, and I can ask you any questions I want.
Go
All
for
right.
it.
50 Shades of Grey. I don't get it.
Neither do I, because I never read it.
Oh, okay.
Never read it. Never watched the movies. So.
Oh, I had one person who also writes dark fantasy saying, okay, I read like the first chapter and I couldn't read the rest of it. I just don't get it,
Yeah.
And she was kind of talking about, I was like, okay, challenge accepted. I'm going to go ahead and pick this up. So I picked it up and I read the first 2 chapters just so I got further than she did. I'm like, I don't get it.
Yeah. I never had any interest. I never read the Twilights either. So
yeah. Neither did I. I got stuck watching the movies, and sometimes you can watch a movie. It's like, oh, I bet the book is amazing.
Harry Potter's, which I know aren't romance, but to me those were the movies, even though some of the movies were different, but they held up really well, in my opinion, to the books. The books were better, but I could watch those movies and not say, oh my gosh, they ruined the book.
See, the advantage I had a daughter that was going through a Harry Potter phase, and we bought her every book, and so I got to read those with her, and I thought the books were great. The movies always let me down. I mean, you can't really compare them to the books because they only have a certain amount of time, and
right.
They do what they think the imagination does. But I mean, and it was, I mean, they're good. I mean, they're not fantastic. I think the books are really
books are
good.
better. Yeah.
Twilight was one of those where it's like, okay, sparkly vampires. I don't get it. He should be disintegrating. He should be, come on. There's some rules with horror here. Come on. You can't turn them into sparkly vampires. There's no glitter in a vampire movie. None.
And yet there was.
Yeah.
And it worked. So that proves our earlier point. You can just do anything and see what happens.
Yeah. And
there are no rules.
Now that particular actor who got splittered, as the glittery vampire, is now going to be a glittery Batman, evidently. So that's going to be kind of interesting to see. I'm sure he'll do a fine job. But he's kind of stuck himself in that genre. Everybody's looking at like, oh, really, dude, you're gonna be Batman? Oh. It's gonna be the Batmobile with a disco ball. I mean, come on. What's it gonna be?
All right, so the 50 Shades of Grey question was a bust. What else you got for me?
It wasn't really a bust. I'm totally completely happy that you don't get it either, and you're a contemporary romance writer. So and if you don't get it, no one will. It's just something that a select group of I don't know what 150 million people liked. So
I never tried to get it. It really just held no interest for me at all.
In the movies, I can't. I have no desire to watch the movies either. Mm-hmm. But like I said, the book, it's like, oh, okay, well, this particular person has a relationship that she wants to explore. Okay, yeah, got it. Oh, here's your secret room. All right, awesome. Yeah, I'm done. Done. So yeah, I do have a Pornhub joke there someplace, but I'm not going to say it. But anyway. No, I just, the interesting thing about you is you jump around a little bit, and they're not necessarily like genres. I mean, historical Western is not exactly cozy mystery, but I guess it could be, and contemporary romance in the middle. I can kind of see the connection, how that could happen. How that could happen. That sounds like it's like a train wreck. I can see how that could happen. Sorry, but
what was interesting about writing Finagled was that cozy mysteries don't have, as a rule, romance in them. They can have you can have a love interest sort of thing, but you don't want to go really heavy on the romance.
Yeah.
And I found myself writing Finagled, and because, Finn and Spencer, her high school crush comes back. So there is something there. but I'd start writing this scene and be like, oh no, dial it back. This isn't the book for that. This isn't a romance. So it had to be very off the page.
I love the way you play with that, by the way. Finn is your character, and Finn Nagel, and
all of the books have Finn in the title.
Finn in the title, and it's Finn Finds series, and I mean that's very clever.
Thank you. Yeah, her antique store is called Finn's Finds, so that's why it's a Finn's Finds mystery. And then so the next book is Finicky Eaters.
Yep.
And I can throw out the titles for the next 4 books after that, but I don't know what order they'll be written. There's Coffin Conundrum, An Affinity for Murder, Elfin Magic, and Shark Fin.
Elfin Magic?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep, and Shark Fin, yeah. So I actually had more fun sitting down and planning out. I think I have like 20 titles just where I just did the wordplay with that, her name, and fitting it into the titles, and then trying to figure out what the book was going to be about based on the title.
Yeah, I'm sitting here thinking about it, and like, you could do a lot with that. That's really that's cool. Again, it's one of those things where, you know, you listen to somebody else and what they did, and it's like, oh, why didn't I think of something like that? That's brilliant, you know. But you know, I'm a newbie, so someday I'll be a writer when I grow up.
Well, I hope that for me too. You know, I really think, you know, we talk a lot, authors in general, and me in particular, about, you know, we talk about this like we're headed toward a destination, like when we get there then we will be an author, but it's really not that. It's a process. It's a learning journey that hopefully does not end for a really long time, and along the way we meet these goals. Okay, we publish this book, and then we go, you know, a few steps forward and we publish this book, and it's not really so much that we reach the end and then we are put whatever label on it you want to. We are that as we're going along.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I 1 book or 60 books, I'm an author. No, nobody told Harper Lee she wasn't an author because she only had To Kill a Mockingbird out. You know, and I know she's published a new one since then, but it took how many years? But she had that 1 book, and no one said to her, hey, you're not an author because you only have 1 book out.
Well, you know, I think like if I talk to a non-author and I say something that they would seem as a negative play on myself, you know, and they get all kind of you-rah-rah on me and like, oh no, you have to think more of yourself and everything else. It's like, no, I don't. And this is part of my personality. I don't feel like I'm quite an author yet because I have to get this and this and this and this and this. And I hope that I never, ever, ever lose that sense of yearning for something else. Right. Because I think that drives me, mm-hmm. you know, for as, you know, and this would be like, you know, for not, I mean, you can always be better, I guess. Yeah. You know, and if I think that imposter syndrome that we all kind of talk about a little bit, I actually think it's kind of healthy. And I actually think it's something that drives people, you know, versus, you know, oh, well, now I'm an author. Now what am I going to do? Well, okay. Right. You know, I guess you're going to go live in the lap of luxury since you, you know, printed that 30,000, you know, word book, and I'm sure movie deals are coming your way really quick, you know. But
one of the best things that I read was the late Mary Higgins Clark, and I absolutely love her, have all her books on my shelf. And I was reading her acknowledgments, and I don't recall which book it was in, but she said something along the lines of, with each book as she's writing it, she still wonders, am I any good? And I thought, wow, if Mary Higgins Clark thinks that each time she writes, it's like, what hope is there for the rest of us? But no, I mean, but that's the thing. It's not like, oh, we write a book. There's just this whole big process that goes into it, and all of this emotion that's outside of the story. I mean, we doubt and we we get excited and we think that sentence is the best sentence we ever wrote, and then the next day we read it again and it's the worst sentence we ever wrote, and we doubt some more, and then it's this big emotional process that I think it really doesn't matter if it's your first book or your 50th. You still go through it, and you have to go through it to get the story out. I mean, that's the birthing process. That's what it takes, because otherwise you're writing a term paper.
Yeah.
I mean, and that, I hated writing term papers. I mean,
you're writing a corporate report for a board meeting, or something like that. It's not something that anybody will ever get into.
Right. If you don't have the emotion on the page, I don't think your readers will feel the emotion on the page.
No.
Whatever that emotion is, it could be joy, it could be love, it could be horror, it could be disgust, it could be whatever it is.
Hate and coffee. Sorry, I write in a different genre. Love and unicorns.
Well, yeah. Love isn't always unicorns.
No, God, what book is it? Where it basically they're describing love. It's a psychological thriller, but love is real close to hate, as far as the feelings it invokes inside of them. And it was really easy for this person to go from love to hate, and then ultimately just kill his lover, because and the whole way going, I still love you. It's like, but on the other hand, it's when, and you'd think that'd be just a crappy book, but it's a really good book, because deep down you're sitting there and you're feeling, you know what? He's kind of right. There are times when, your spouse comes in and it's like, oh, you're the last person I ever want to see. And well, yeah, I love you, but go away.
But I might not like you. Yeah.
I hate you right now, but I do have
You're
some
still
feelings.
my life partner. Yeah. Till I kill you.
Yeah. But all righty. Well, we've gone over podcasts, we've gone over historical Western, we've gone over contemporary romance and cozy mysteries, and how much I love your titles. Anything else you'd like to tell your readers?
I just really like to say thank you. Thank you for taking a chance on my books. I hope you enjoy them. I do my best to put out something that you'll like. And I appreciate the support. I really do. And if you want to listen to the podcast and learn about other great authors and their books, www.wordplaypodcast.com.
And I will put that on the show notes along with your website, and link to your author page on Amazon. If there's anything else that you want on there, just shoot me an email or something. And if I happen to miss something, I mean, whatever. But other than that, I want to thank you very much for your time today. I really appreciate you chatting with me. It's been a pleasure. And thank you for letting me experience the interviewing of a romance author.
Oh, well, you're so welcome. It's been my honor. Thanks for having me on the show. And for all of that, I don't know that we spoke a whole lot about romance. I think we touched on it here.
Which is perfect for me, because it's beer, pizza, and Netflix. That's romance to me. It really is. All right. With that, I'm going to say goodbye. I hope everybody enjoyed the show. And if you wouldn't mind, subscribe or follow me on whatever medium you happen to be listening to, especially YouTube or Apple, iTunes, that podcast thingamajigger. This is Jeff Bacon for the DIY Writer Podcast, bidding you a great day. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Please hit the subscribe button. I get a bonus for every subscriber, and I only need 1,506 more to become a full-time paid employee. Help me, please.